color combinations, product fit, quality of materials, do not matter when two people with an original point of view are trying to find some common constant. It's too subjective. The last of the really great designers, Alexander McQueen, whose shows, in addition to top models, featured robots spraying paint and fat women in gas masks, used to say, "I don't want my screenings to leave the audience feeling like they attended a family Sunday lunch. What they saw should shock them." So, if someone does not like the style of light green pantaloons with a cutout in the causal place, it means that the designer has done his job one way or another. This rule works not only in high fashion. It is quite applicable to consumer goods, such as the uniforms of the NBA teams, which are being criticized more and more fiercely, objectively, and most importantly, not unreasonably every year. Fans and even club employees are dissatisfied with the form. The announcement of uniforms for the season is traditionally accompanied by ratings of the best and worst design solutions. Only this year fans cited Sports Illustrated, Sky Sports, Use It a Day and others, before proceeding to the description, sluggishly pointed out that the selection was made on the principle of the best of the worst, since almost all concepts turned out to be either worse than last year's, or an unsuccessful interpretation of the eternal classics. Such a visit did not become news, since fans have been throwing mud at the current technical sponsor of the league, Nike, for years. The employees of the clubs also expressed their opinion a little more delicately. For example, Sarah Todd, a full-time jazz journalist who previously worked in a similar position at Sixers and Warriors, could not resist describing the results of the survey, which was devoted to the rebranding of jazzmen. "It's hard not to agree with the fans. We want to show with all our actions that changes are brewing in the club. And at the same time, the best form of those that we present turns out to be a set from the time of Stockton and Malone. Commitment to the roots is great, but if we want to win a new audience, we have to offer something new and interesting. It is not enough to simply repaint the form in a different shade of yellow. Our fans expect more from us," Todd tweeted. On the same site, according to her survey on the topic "How do you feel about the rebranding of the club?" 46.9% answered "I hate," 30.1% "It will do," 6.8% "liked," 16.3% "no difference." And this is unpleasant, because it is the fans who, in theory, should rake out merchandising and paraphernalia with team symbols from club stores. And the fact that this does not happen is largely the problem of the clubs themselves. After all, when it comes to discussing a specific form, fans release clouds of critical arrows at Nike, but, in fact, these complaints are not quite to the address. Nike can be blamed for the decline in product quality, which has really become worse. Basketball players tear their jerseys not because they cannot contain the rage of the Hulk, and their sneakers explode not because of space overload. Corny as it may seem, but it's all about politics. The decline in quality is due to the deterioration of international relations between the United States and China. Most of Nike's exports are produced not in China, but in Taiwan, whose independence is another reason for America to confront the leadership of the Middle Kingdom led by Xi Jinping. Uncle Xi, in turn, also frightens the United States and uses every opportunity for this. It is enough to recall how China reacted in 2019 to the tweet of the then general manager of the Rockets, Daryl Morey, about the independence of Hong Kong in order to certify the determination of Asians. So Nike produces equipment in Taiwan, on equipment that needs periodic updating. China supplies parts for it, but now, when relations between the United States and China are getting cooler every year, the Chinese do not deny themselves the pleasure of supplying Taiwan with spare parts a little less often, because they consider it their patrimony. Hence the deterioration of equipment and, as a result, the decline in quality. So all claims about the quality of Nike can be safely sent to the village to Grandpa Joe and Uncle C. As for the design, in order to complain about it, you will need to buy 3 dozen postal envelopes. The faded design is a flaw in the NBA, but Nike is not sinless either. All the extensive concepts, wild colors and original solutions that fans so relentlessly blaspheme are the result of the efforts of the design departments that every NBA club has. They are the ones who develop samples, conduct internal pitching, and then send what the studio calls the standard to Nike. After that, a joint discussion takes place, details are finalized, and so on, but the clubs still have the deciding vote here. So it is not Nike, but the club that needs to be presented for last year's absolutely hacky white Oklahoma uniform. Here it must be said that individual organizations are seriously trying to fix the situation. For example, Cleveland in 2020 hired the famous artist and sculptor Daniel Arsham, who is still responsible for the concepts of Cavs. It was he who had the idea of an alternative t-shirt, where the word Cleveland was composed of fonts used on canonical rock albums from Metallica to Nirvana. Quite a worthy reference to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is located in Cleveland. Memphis had some good options with a reference to the brilliant soul vocalist Isaac Hayes, who owned the Memphis Sounds ABA club in the 70s. The Timberwolves did a great job, dedicating one of the variants of the form to the singer Prince. Miami performed well with the Vice City variant, which became a greeting to the game of the same name from the GTA series and the Miami Police series with Don Johnson. Unfortunately, it is the example of hit that has become the most indicative in terms of how even the most competent idea is ruined by soulless capitalism. After Nike signed an agreement with the league in 2017, the number of uniforms increased to 4 and has continued to increase exponentially since then. Now 4 variants of the form are a mandatory minimum. And every season there are all kinds of City Edition, Statement Edition, Hardwood Edition. This season they will surely make something separate for the week of confrontations. The marketing chain is quite standard: more form options, more supply options, more demand. Clubs frankly can't cope with a huge number of kits and increasingly prefer on-duty minimalism, Cavs this season, or fall into self-copying, like those Miami. The successful idea with Vice City, which was found by Dwayne Wade in subsequent years, was simply reissued in other colors: pink, blue and white. The fan naturally did not appreciate the fact that they continued to sell the same thing to him for several years, and a good idea eventually turned into a parody. Clubs fail to cope with the task and lose their identity. The need to generate an exorbitant number of variants of forms and a shortage of ideas turned the creative process into a duty, and clubs began to issue frankly strained crafts. Take at least Detroit, which this season came with a black uniform and a far-fetched concept of its creation. The club solemnly demonstrated a recording from an answering machine, on which a fan says in a faltering voice that the team needs new colors, and they will become a catalyst for great achievements. This simple maxim was the basis for a rather dubious morning version. The opinion of the fans should be taken into account, but then the implementation should not be so short. Such bold experiments often lead to clubs producing uniforms that not only don't look original, but also lose their identity. In fact, club colors. One such example, to my taste, is the Yellow City edition of Milwaukee 2019 with a red insert in the absence of any signs of belonging to the city. We remind you, City Edition. The annotation on the official website says, "This uniform symbolizes the pride of the club by its fans who watch the game and have their own idea of what their team looks like." Looking at this kit, you are able to recreate the visual style that is inherent in your favorite team. If you read between the lines, then everything turns out much easier. We've figured something out here, and you can think of what exactly yourself. Of course, it's nice to feel such trust, but somehow it doesn't pull to pay $150 for such homage to Mileyevich's creativity. There is another minor, but still curious detail, which also annoys fans who zealously appreciate authenticity. These are sponsor stripes, which cause a certain part of the fans to be almost allergic. Everyone interprets it in their own way, to the best of their own taste preferences. Someone is purely aesthetically deterred by the accumulation of labels. Individuals see this as a sign of belonging to large corporations with which they do not want to associate themselves. Something similar happened with the Barcelona football club. Catalans were proud for a long time that there were no logos of insurance companies or airline names on the blue garnet t-shirts, but in the end they were forced to give up. First, there were UNICEF logos, which were applied, it seems, as part of a charity event, and then it went. And now the players are going to Clásico against Real Madrid with a personal logo of rapper Drake, since his songs are played by the main sponsor of the Catalan Spotify. Fans from among the old believers do not like it, and basketball is no exception. Last year, this once again confirmed the message about the renaming of the Staples Center to the Crypto.com Arena. Then the fans of the Lakers were outraged, motivating their dissatisfaction with the fact that the last successes of the club and the legacy of Kobe Bryant are connected with the name Staples Center. It's about the same story with logos on t-shirts. For many, the presence of a technical sponsor in the league logo is a maximum that should not be exceeded. Well, in order not to be deceitful, it's probably worth admitting that a fair number of citizens, albeit subconsciously, still believe that the water used to be wetter, the grass was greener, and Steven Seagal was not inferior to Sir Anthony Hopkins in the ability to transform on the screen. For this reason, even the most pretentious forms of the past years, the gold set of Washington in 2007, the silver set of Mavericks in 2004, seem quite tolerable today. And this means that over time something similar can happen with the current options. After all, time is the main examiner of style. And the status of classics is the highest score.